Join us as we go beyond the pixels in the Gamer's Edge podcast, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of video gaming. In each episode, we transcend the boundaries of mere pixels, immersing ourselves in the very essence of gaming and esports. Exclusive interviews with rising stars poised to redefine the industry, conversations with seasoned veterans sharing their tales of triumph and tribulation, insights from coaches and commentators who breathe life into every battle, as well as industry leaders that create the heartbeat of esports. Whether you harbour dreams of becoming a professional gamer, are a devoted fan eager to explore the hidden narratives, or simply find yourself captivated by the intricate workings of gaming and esports, the Gamer's Edge is your front row ticket. So fellow gamers, let's unite and explore. For in the dynamic landscapes of virtual competition, the Gamer's Edge podcast is your beacon, guiding you through the labyrinth of gaming excellence. So get ready for a thrilling adventure through the virtual arenas, where victory, camaraderie, and endless adventure await.
What's going on, guys? Welcome into another episode of the Gamer's Edge podcast. Hopefully you checked out the last one with Luminosity's coach, Greg. He was able to come on with us, so I do want to send a shout out to him. Thank you, sir. But right now, from the Pittsburgh Knights and the Knights Esports Organization, I have Liam here with me, and man, oh man, am I excited to get into this, because you know I love talking behind the scenes with the boys. Liam, thank you so much for coming on with me today.
Yeah, Cody, great to be here, man.
I'm going to get right into it. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey into the esports industries and how you ended up as the corporate partnerships manager for the Knights?
Yeah, I've been a gamer since I was 8 years old. And from an early age, I always had that interest, but I also understood responsibilities. And I never really thought that I would be working in gaming. I always thought that it was like a very interesting space. And when interest evolved and I was able to game a lot more in college, and I went to the University of Pittsburgh, not too far from where the corporate offices of Knights Esports Group is. So it came to be my senior year, and I was the first. We were really the I was the first school year to come back to school during COVID, when we didn't really know what all was happening. So like this was back before like all the vaccine mandates and stuff like that, but there's still a lot of like restriction in place. So I was working for a tech company, and they were doing a big push with Lenovo's Legion line into esports and trying to get more colleges to purchase units of that. So I was like
And
looking into esports a lot more, and I had always been behind the scenes. I'd always been a supporter. I'd watched some events, and followed some of the professional teams. And I realized that one of the biggest things that I had always chased in any career that I had like was really focusing in on was the ability to bring people together in a common interest, with a common interest, and in a positive way. So that was something that I was like consistently pushing for, and I found esports as one of the best ways to do that. It was a COVID compliant. We were able to everybody was able to have a great time, but they were able to do so with certain barriers in place so that if they wanted to game together, they could, but if they wanted to stay home, that they also could, you know? So I knew that I wanted to work in the space, and I was fortunate enough to be based in the same city as the Knights. And when I was looking into the Knights, I was like, okay, this is definitely an organization I can get behind. They're so cool. They do so much local stuff. They're with like the Steelers. What? So I looked into it more. I found out who the founder and the CEO was, and I addressed my resume, cover letter, a white paper that I had written, and a bunch of Pitt face masks. I found out that he had a family, so I packaged that all into one big thick manila envelope, and I took my Pitt ID. I took the bus because we get like free buses as like students, and I went down to their offices.
that's what's up.
I yeah, I dressed nice, so I got past security, and they weren't in the offices. So I just had my hopes and dreams just laying in this manila envelope, and I just am walking around. I go into the Steelers offices. There's one woman working, and she was one of their marketing people. She was beyond kind. And I was like, "Are they in?" And she's like, "No, they're all working from home." And I was like, and she's like, but they're still getting their mail. And I'm like, would you be able to drop this off to them? She's like, yeah, sure. So I give her my baby, for lack of a better term. And I went home and I was just like, what am I going to do now? And then I got a call back about a week later, that they wanted to meet. And that meeting ended up being a 1 hour heart to heart with like the president and the CEO and the founder of the Knights, and I was totally not expecting that. But he took a liking to me, and then he brought me in. And at that point, I was a coordinator in the corporate partnership side because he thought I had a real knack for talking and for people for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm just kidding. But he then I stayed with the organization for I think I'm a few years in now, and I've just been able to be a part of so many cool projects with them, and that's how I've gotten into the manager side, and I've helped them with managing their current strategic partnerships with on the brand side as well as with the Steelers, Pirates, Wiz Khalifa, and also been able to be a part of some really cool conversations and projects that I'm very interested in as well, and I've helped to lead. So that's kind of like I took out some stuff, but that's really the my story of the entrance in the space and really how I got to the role I sit at right now.
Man, it takes courage just to lay your hopes and dreams into an envelope and say, "Hey, this one person I don't know, please pass this off." But
Yeah, I was definitely like she was, but the person that did it, I can't remember her name, but she was definitely my savior on that day. And this was also, we're talking about timing. I hope that my story inspires people because this was only in January. I graduated from college without a job, like with like 3 months left. So like I have like everybody pressuring me to be like, what is your career choice? What are you going to do after graduation? And I had just come to the conclusion in my senior year, um, that this is what the thing I wanted to go into. And I put all my eggs into one basket, and I truly believed, and I really didn't want anything to stop me. So like it was definitely a very emotional period of time, like going through interview process, because I did what nobody else should do, and I put all my eggs into one basket. But I believed, so I don't know.
sometimes you
I hope
just
that
gotta take that leap of faith.
yeah, I hope that inspires people to be like, okay, well, I haven't found my passion yet, and I'm still looking for it. So
Well, I do gotta ask this then. So, what made you really, really hone in on the Knights, and what has made them just this exceptional group for you? What sets the Knights Esports Group apart from other organizations in the industry?
so one of the biggest things is that they focused on building the infrastructure internally as an organization, rather than following the usual model of esports where, okay, it's a couple of kids that are good at one game. We're all going to go to Canva. We're going to make our auto generate ourselves a logo, and then boom, we're an esports team. You know, so what these guys did was they were founded by former esports pros that also grew up and had that corporate experience, and they were able to tie in all of the investment from really, really big players in their region in the form of the Steelers, Pirates, and Wiz, and also some members of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they were able to create an organization on sort of following the corporate route and following investment from larger groups. Just like any corporate entity would follow. Then, when they also found out that it wasn't profitable to just have competitive teams, um, then after that they started to create events. Um, I call us Knights Esports Group because we are the Knights, we are Knights Arena, and we're also a tech company. So we are a competitive organization and influencer and content. That's like the usual stuff people are used to within
Yeah.
esports. But then on the second tier, we're also an entire events and league organizer on behalf of gaming developers. We've run competitive events for prizing in Valorant, CS:GO, Halo, Gears of War. Um, Fall Guys, the list really goes on. And we also run the entire competitive scene in all of North America for Valorant. We are the primary tournament and events organizer for Riot Games within North America, specifically in Valorant. And then we also develop tech to promote esports success. So through the three tiers of our company, that's really where we stand out as opposed to other teams that only focus on competitive and content, really. And that also gives our the brands that we work with a significant leg up when wanting to integrate fully into esports, because a lot of brands will just do an event or do competitive team sponsorship, and they're kind of left wondering, okay, what did we get out of that? And the fans are left like, okay, what did we get out of that? So I think what makes us different is our unique storytelling, our structure that allows for brands to integrate in, and really our origin story. You know, going forth in that corporate route as opposed to um, the just a couple of kids in someone's basement just
Yeah.
making a team. We had people who had juice, who were at the beginning of esports in like the 90s. Our the founder of our organization was the coach for Team Liquid and brought an American team to the world finals, and he did it 4 times. And that was just with our founder. We've had other professional players and professional coaches come on as you know other high level corporate positions. Our CFO ran the entirety of collegiate esports on the West Coast for the longest time. So on behalf of Blizzard, no less. So we've got a lot of really we've got a great group of people that have been here since the founding, and have allowed us to grow. And I was in the fortunate position of coming in as they were on that precipice of even more growth. So that's kind of what makes us different from other esports just teams per se.
Yeah. Well, to kind of tie everything in together, I gotta ask now, the how can I put this? The approach that you have when you try and find that partner, uh, are you taking different approaches per se? Let's like a water company. Let's
Yeah.
say you want to get them on board. Now, are you going in saying, "Hey, look at all these realms that we're in," or do you have different approaches for, say, a controller company? You're like, "Look at our esports teams." A water company, you're like, "Hey, look at our corporate side." Is there different approaches, or is it just look at all the pools that we're in?
No, that's a fantastic question. And whenever I talk to a brand, this isn't I don't present us as some like Cheesecake Factory menu where it's like a dictionary of like all the stuff that we can do. I always go back with my team before meetings, and we do some prep work. And that prep work is going to be, what's our basic vision? What are some of the things that they're doing based off of our research? And what audience groups are they pulling into right now? And from there, we develop out a plan. With that plan, I develop like the presentation, and then going into those first couple of meetings with that brand, I have an idea of where I want to steer them, because I understand where they'll probably have the most efficacy within gaming. And with that, I do go after a lot of consumer facing brands, but also I'm going to go to some other brands that are more B2B as well to help grow, again, the infrastructure of our organization. So when I go into those conversations, I always try to have a plan forward, and I'm only recommending stuff that I think would be valuable to them. But there are certain brands that when they start to ask questions, then I start to go forward and say, okay, well, these are some other really cool things that we're able to do. How do you guys want to move forward with this? So um, and that process can take place over the course of a call, or it can take place over the course of several months, depending on what team, like internal team feedback is. So to answer your question, I always try to go forward with a plan.
Gotcha. Kind of hone it directly at them, and then once you're in, hey, check out this other stuff we can kind of do as you see fit to kind of let them know about it. I,
Exactly.
I like
Exactly.
that. Now, we were talking a little bit off camera, off call, and we were talking about the regular sports industry versus the esports industries. So, what are some challenges that you face as the partnerships manager in the esports industries compared to, say, a traditional sports? Because, of course, everybody wants that TV time, so it's easier to get that ad revenue and stuff like that
Mm.
going for the traditional sports side. So, what's the challenges you face here with the Knights?
Yeah, no, that's we you have like a couple hours to talk because let's get a couple of things straight. So the challenges that I face are a little bit more unique. Now, esports is new, gaming is new, newer than traditional sports. Now, with that comes its challenges, but also what people fail to realize is that gaming is way more accessible as a form of entertainment than traditional sports. We're not struggling with the where do I watch insert events? And then it's going to be like, oh, you go to Fox Sports, you go to Amazon, you go to this and that. People are constantly worrying about the cable TV rights for traditional sports. Also, what traditional sports lacks is looping the sponsors into the narrative of the gaming title. This is something that, oddly enough, hockey's done a pretty good job of. I was just recently over at a Penguins game this past Sunday, and the way they were able to loop sponsors into the story of the game was a little bit unique as opposed to football. Now, when you look at traditional sports like hockey and football, for the longest time, the commercial breaks and the ads were the biggest part of the experience. You know, there's a very low percentage of viewing of the actual action in the game without consistent pauses or timeouts because of like an ad that they're going to like jam pack with ads. Now, something that a challenge for us is obviously legit, like offering esports as a legitimate form of entertainment, so that brands can understand what they're all getting, because they see sports and they understand it. You know, it's going to be, oh wow, look at this arena, it's huge, it's massive. Look at the people there. You know, they look 21 and up. That's probably within our age demo, and we also know that it gets massive viewership. Um, Traditional sports viewership has been on a decline steadily since for the past like 10 years, and that's pretty well known. So what esports offers is a new, vibrant, high income, decision maker, tech savvy audience that everybody wants to advertise to, but this audience is very perceptive. So the challenges are legitimizing esports as a pathway of entertainment that brands want to invest in, and then also allowing people to understand it. You know, so people understand gaming, but they might not understand the professional level of gaming, and then from there, they don't even not understand how they would fit in. What are the things that I'm selling? What are the things that how would a brand integrate into esports? Then that's another thing that I have to explain, because I have to make some comparisons with our industry and traditional sports, but it's also very different. Our industry is also way more accessible. You know, you can watch pretty much every event is broadcasted on Twitch or YouTube Live. And then there is another factor that sets in. It's just like, okay, well, I know people are watching it, but how would we get into these like broadcasts? So as far as the challenges I face in comparison to traditional sports, it's a lack of representation. It is the fact that we are a younger industry, and it's also the fact that a lot of people don't understand it in comparison to traditional sports. Now, I also wouldn't want to be in traditional sports because I want to have a job in 10 years. So, okay, I'm not, that's a little bit of a call out, but I don't really call it. But, you know, that's why I wanted to be in esports and within gaming. So, does that help answer your question? I could go into bigger detail.
No, that was actually perfect. Because it really just seems like it's like you said, that knowledge base that these brands, especially the, I guess, big time brands like a Jack in the Box, or the big box places,
Mhm.
they won't see how they're able to fit in. But my next one is, you see it with the Call of Duty League. I know we were talking a little bit about some of that earlier.
Yeah.
You see when they're loading into the maps, Monster is a sponsor, so they've placed Monster ads actually in the arena, so to speak, and the
Mhm.
end of the level. Do you see more integration like that coming to help boost that partnership?
No, I mean absolutely. One thing that one comment on that is that we have to deal with brand recognition with specific gaming titles. So I mean, I mean, we know this. Like, not every football fan is the same as a baseball fan. While within esports, whenever people think of Call of Duty, a lot of the times they're going to think, oh, well, and I got when I got my disc, this is Far Cry, but when I got my disc, it had the limited edition monster DLC bundle on there or something like that, right? So one thing that we have to deal with is the brand recognition between specific gaming titles. I've talked to certain brands who are like, well, we wouldn't want to integrate with that gaming title's audience because that audience is already so used to this brand. um, but to answer your question, I do think we're going to see a lot more of that. I think that we still need to look at how are we pulling a brand into the narrative of the experience. How are we pulling them into the perceived benefit of that event? And if they're doing like map picks and bans, they're doing character selection, more than happy to pull more brands into that. That's something that works. But what do the fans get out of that? And I think that's something that we have to keep on harping on. We have to keep on really focusing in on if we're going to continue to succeed, as opposed to just the putting as many brands into an event or something, an experience, just because. We got to focus on what the fans are getting, because at the end of the day, it's the fans that made esports grow to where it is now. So I do believe that we're going to be seeing a lot more of creative integrations like that into different events. Caster call outs, custom content specifically for that event. Not just looping in the latest monster advertisement that is playing that month. Creating new stuff for that. Unique giveaways. Unique like seasonal campaigns coinciding with that brand. All these things you got to take into account when you're going into a campaign. That's why people plan out a year ahead, 2 years ahead.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that we need to focus in on. Now, what are we giving the fans? But to answer your question, yes, we are going to see a lot more of that.
Yeah. Now you did mention one thing too is I don't think people realize the time and planning that goes in, just the overall aspect of it. Because some of the things that you see, we're a year and a half in
Mm-hmm.
the works to finally be out to the public.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect. I mean, look at just game releases in general. Whenever a company announces, uh, a new TV series or a new gaming title, they've been in development of that project for months. And the same on this side. I've seen stuff um, be in the works and like here and now, and then the public doesn't hear about it for months and months after. So the planning that goes into this has to be, it has to be thoroughly thought out if you're going to get a great return at the end, because a lot of people in sponsorships or in marketing or on the corporate side, they're going to look at the return. And how do we best plan for that? Well, it's going to be how much thought did you put into the campaign itself. So, you know.
Now, I'm gonna rewind just a little bit here, because in the beginning you were talking about you came in right around the COVID time, right when everything was happening, and of course, the way the COVID-19 pandemic it's affected esports in a good and bad way.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of, again, we were talking about Call of Duty. They went to completely online, and a lot of the players have said, "Hey, we don't like it being strictly online, except for the majors." And that's one of the negative drawbacks to it. One of the positives was it seems like everybody was just chunking money in, and we saw a big balloon up of esports. Here lately, though, of course, as Earth gets back to normal, hell, as normal as we can get, we'll say, we've seen a slight deflation of that here in the esports with investors and teams selling off certain spots uh, and spots in leagues as well. Now, what are the key factors do you think that we can adjust to continue to grow esports?
Mm. Well, I think you have to take a careful look at the people in the behind the scenes roles, because when companies experience growth, they're going to bring on more people to sustain that growth. That's like a simple fact. But what a lot of these teams need to look at is that growth going to be sustainable? And one of the things that we saw within esports, and this is another thing that we're seeing in gaming in general, is that a lot of these companies became overstaffed because they experienced growth through such a crazy wacky time within history in the form of the pandemic. So you need to keep planning in order to um, make sure that your company can experience consistent growth as opposed to just like this weird wavelength that we're seeing right now, especially within gaming. Another thing that we need to focus on is what like sponsorship is a huge part of the revenue stream within esports. How do we make sure that those sponsorship dollars are consistently coming in? Well, we need to start looking at things almost a little bit like agencies do. Agencies always put forth a huge amount of resources to accurately charting the where the sponsorship dollars were going, and within a campaign finding out, okay, this was the result, this was the return. One of the things that I don't see enough in esports is teams and events organizers and any gaming organization. I don't see them investing enough into data and analytics. That's something that we're going to have to invest in a lot more. And we're also going to have to see a lot more organizations go, how do I want to say this? Growing with a lean team. One thing that I can tell you is that the Knights team is really small. We've been able to do a lot with a very low amount of people. And I think that if more organizations were as efficient as us, I'm not patting myself on the back here. I'm just saying, like, if more organizations have efficiency and at the forefront of some of their planning, and the teams that comprise these organizations, they all have that boss mentality where they're all willing to go that a little extra to make sure that the brand that they work for is going to succeed a lot longer. If more organizations were to take a look at that, I think that would drive growth. I think that if more esports teams focused in on again, like what the fans get out
Yeah.
of it, how do we loop the fans in, how do we create those cool experiences? Are we gonna expand our events budget and we're gonna pull in, like, the sponsors get to do giveaways where we get to bring more fans out to, like, not party with us, but they get to do like a live LAN party at our studio. Are we able to do more stuff like that? Are we able to give our fans, not just the fans of gaming, but our fans, unique experiences to really drive home that, again, the benefits to the fans? That's something that not I don't think a lot of organizations are doing enough of. And um, if we see more organizations doing those things, we're going to see others doing the same thing as well. So that's kind of some of my thoughts on how we can really keep growing. Um, yeah, yeah,
No, it's actually it's great insight to hear, and 100% actually agree. And again, like we were talking, beforehand, having that manager aspect, you have to be able to look at your business model and make sure that it's actually set up for success. Uh, and the overstaffing, it's an unfortunate thing to see so many people let go, but had we utilized that in the beginning, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. Because man, it seems like every gaming, every facet of the gaming industry right now is having layoffs happen
hmm
crazy. And again, it's that deflation.
yeah. And it's crazy to see that we're a gaming itself is experiencing so much growth, but the decision makers themselves are not. I can't remember any other point in history where we've had so many cool gaming titles come out within the span of just like a month. The fact that, like, Gamer Ranks on YouTube is just like, here are the top games to check out next month, and there's like 10 gaming titles. We used to only see that at E3,
Yeah.
but now um, there's just so much competition for that next experience. And I think that if we look at what the fans, I mean, take like Helldivers, for instance. I've been not only have I been playing like quite a bit, but that is a gaming studio that is just consistently looking at what can we do for the fans, how can we appeal to like more hardcore gamers. The second those guys got word that's like, oh, some people are saying that Helldivers 2, the new updates are too hard. Well, they said, well, that seems like a skill issue to me. And then they just kept on trucking along and providing, again, that experience for like their fans, like
Yeah.
their fans and hardcore gamers as well. We need more stuff like that. More developers that are like again, they're providing for the fans, and if you're not really one of the fans and you have just something to say, well, come and enjoy this game with us before you start talking smack and get better. So yeah,
Man, as
I'm
a game.
fanboying right now, but sorry.
No, it's funny you say that. Now, I may end up making some of my viewers a little mad, but as a guy that played competitively, many moons ago, to see games dumbed down, aim assist rocking so hard with some of the shooters now and everything like
Yeah,
that. And I understand it's all to go to the casual. Everything now is gearing towards that casual gamer. Uh, it's tough to pursue these games that I was so passionate about and loved so much and put
yeah.
so much time into. Again, many moons ago.
More, yeah. So this is the thing. When you look at all of it, this kind of all started with Marvel appealing to the casual fans and making it so that you're making it so that your thing can appeal to everybody, as opposed to what built your thing appealing to a niche, and that niche growing your thing. So this is something that really happened with like Marvel comics. You saw like the humor, the Disney style humor set in with like really really serious ramifications. Like, oh, this person just died, and then it's doing like a little Disney noise in the soundtrack to make that moment sound funny. You bring up a great point with aim assist coming into a lot of different games. Um, you know a lot of game mechanics and a lot of storylines are becoming way more dumbed down and simplified to appeal to not really just not even just gamers, just like people in general. If I can make my game look cool while someone's scrolling on TikTok or any short form, and I'm paying different meme accounts to make a cool edit out of this game, and I've got the comment section asking, what is this game, this looks really cool, and then they go and check it out, and then they like the trailer that I made for it, and then that loops in more casual like fans, then that's a success. That is technically a success metric, but you're really watering it down for short term gain. Um, just within the entirety of the subculture. And look, like in the United States alone, no, listen, there's billions of gamers with a B. There's billions of gamers. In the United States alone, 79% of the population already interacts with gaming in some way, shape, or form, whether that's viewing content, looking at social media posts, playing, or hearing about it in some way on the news or something like that. 79%. So I don't think we're dealing with a how do I want to say this? I don't think we're dealing with a visibility or attraction issue anymore. I think we need to start catering to the audience itself, uh, by making games that people actually want to play, as opposed to, oh, I'm going to play this for like a week or two, and then you know putting more money into the game as opposed to the promotion of the game. That would be really cool if we could see that, but it's going to be a little while before we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Hot take there. I'm sorry, but
no. It's. I think we both kind of align on that one there.
yeah.
Now, all right. I'm just gonna skip to this question.
No, we went through like a lot of like different topics.
Well, cause I have this one a little bit further down my
Yeah.
my little board here, but we've been talking about the increase in popularity of esports. We were just talking about everything like that. So, what impact do you foresee traditional sports having on esports and the entertainment industry, especially when we see like NCAA coming back and now players are getting paid to be in that video game and stuff like that? We see mergers between Xbox and Blizzard. All these cool things are going on, uh, mixing between traditional sports and esports. So, how do you see traditional sports impacting our realm?
Um, Unfortunately, I do see the consolidation, different developers and gaming organizations with those financial institutions that back sports teams, because those larger like mutual funds and hedge funds, they're going to see a lot more viability in gaming as an investment. So unfortunately, I do see a lot of that happening, and the reason I say it's unfortunate is because that has led to the dumbing down of different subcultures and appealing to shareholders, which, and the people who lose at the end are the fans. So I do think we're going to see a lot more of that. I think one thing that's cool that we're going to see is different traditional sports organizations working with esports teams, kind of like what we do. We do really, really cool stuff with the Steelers, the Pirates, and Wiz. We do cool like live streams with Wiz Khalifa and the members of Taylor Gang. We have done entire gaming tournaments at Pirates games, like leading up to a Pirates game, and then people get to stay in. We were at the left field lounge at the Pirates Stadium for the Marlins game, and we held an entire Rocket League tournament. And then all of the parents and the kids that competed, we had some parents compete against like alongside their kids, and that was awesome. And then we saw them walk right out to their seats at to enjoy the game, or they stayed and they watched the game. But I see a lot more cool experiences to create that next generation of traditional sports fans that also enjoy gaming. I see a lot more of that coming, and I really hope, I really hope that starts to happen a lot more, because my dream is to go to the Steelers stadium and to host like a giant tournament out on the field. So, obviously we'd pick like a good day, a good weather and stuff like that, which is tough because we're in Pittsburgh and it's one of the rainiest cities in America. But we would pick like a really good day, and then the people would get to compete. And then once they compete and they win, they get to play against some of the Steelers players or something like that, which we've done show matches with Steelers players. But um, you know, creative experiences like those, is something that I really hope that we see a lot more of going into the future. Because if traditional sports teams can cement that next generation of fans, they continue to do so through gaming, they'll be able to stay in popularity. So um, there's good and bad, I think, coming to gaming. The appeasement of the shareholders is something that we might see a little bit more of, which we that's doesn't really bode well for the fans.
I know you were kind of saying y'all do a lot of community work and everything like that. So
Mhm.
how do you think esports can be leveraged to positively impact education as well and health? Uh, like you said, you're bringing in mom, dad with their kids and everything like that, trying to foster that good family environment. So how can we see that impact
Yeah.
that home life?
No, that's a great question. I think that treating esports just as we treat traditional sports culturally. One of the reasons, I mean, plain and simple, one of the main reasons that so many schools invested in football programs is because of ticket sales and the amount of viewers and money coming into the school when people would come and watch the Friday night football game. I know I did that with my high school. But I think that if we were to treat esports in the same way, like those different tournaments that are held at the collegiate level, there's NASIF, National Association or Scholastic Esports Federation, which is in all of North America. It's at the middle school and the high school level. If we had more organizations allowing for that competition between the high school and middle school students, and then those same students being able to use their skills and creativity within that as a scholarship opportunity to college, then you have like the whole that whole path to pro environment set in place for the young generation, so that they can, not only does that level up the competition and increase the overall the grit and the level of intensity that's required in esports, but also it's going to elevate a lot of these different school programs because they have so many cool players coming into in their doors. Then you're going to have more people being able to fund their college education with esports, and at the same time, we get tons of cool viewing opportunities as fans because hey, I like that's something that I would love to watch. I'd love to going and seeing competition live when it's like either held at your school
Yeah.
or something along those lines. It's a lot of fun. I don't know if you've ever been. I mean, you obviously you understand because you've competed, but when you're just sitting in this in the audience at like these competitive events, it's a different energy, man. Like
Oh yeah.
it's so much fun. So um, if we're able to see more incorporation and investment from the schools into esports programs, and look, it doesn't have to be anything major. It can, you can have a specific esports lab or esports facility. That's one thing that we've done. And when we talk about community initiatives, the Knights were one of the first organizations to run full-fledged night women in esports campaigns. We've also worked closely with the mayor's office and my brother's keeper to create esports programs in different underserved communities around the Pittsburgh area. We've opened, I think it was like 3 or 4 different esports gyms around like our region alone. And if the synchronicity between schools and local esports orgs is something that is very new. But I think that that's also something that could help evolve from the educational side and have that positive impact there. And already we're seeing a lot of different uh, uh, people that are attracted to esports. They gravitate towards STEM fields, um, but maybe that can expand in the future as well. So I've talked to people who are like they work in um, they work what is it? They work with like different country singers, and they also work in like firearms and stuff like that. And they would have Halo LAN parties at like their friend's barn. Like, and these are like rural town America, and they're hosting a LAN at a barn. Like, and they would like order pizza and stuff like that. It's like the funniest image in my head. But that just shows how gaming can appeal to everyone.
Hey,
So that's my verbose way of answering your question.
no, that's how we used to have to do it back in the day. Is
Yeah.
you know I remember my friend. This is how dedicated we were. My friend Victor convinced his mom to let us do a LAN party at his house. So she sent his brother and sister to their aunts. That way we had one team of four in his sister's room, one team of
Yep.
four in the brother's room, and we were just all on the Xbox playing Halo 2 back in the day. And then we were having different tournaments going on like that where each room was a different team.
That's honestly what I miss, because those split screen local co-op and local multiplayer games are a thing of the past now.
Yeah,
We've
unfortunately.
seen what we've seen. I think the last game that really did that was Borderlands. I think Borderlands had split screen and split screen campaign and split screen multiplayer. Now we don't see a lot of investment like that, but I wish we did, and I think that's one thing that I really wish the we would pull towards, because like we have like way bigger, thinner, more high definition TVs nowadays, and you're saying that I can only play if I have like a like solid internet connection and I'm paying like the monthly subscription fee to for a Game Pass or whatever. That sucks,
Yeah.
like yeah.
Well, I've got a kind of a hot take that, as you were talking, kind of popped into my head.
Yeah.
Because, of course, we're talking about the growth in the collegiate level,
Mhm.
the partnering with arenas, like y'all have your own arena as well, so throwing events. I game on PC. It's, of
Mhm.
course, Master Race. But I think the competitive side should go, especially with the advances of the Xbox Series X. I think it should go to that because I think it would be easier for schools to, hey, let's go buy 5 Xboxes. That way we have 4 for our teams and then one as a backup if in case something happens. It would be easier for an arena to go buy 20 Xboxes instead of building out 20 rigs. Maybe I'm wrong because I don't know the financials on something like that, but I just think it would be, especially where we're at, and considering a lot of the arenas, even now, use 144 megahertz monitors, um,
Mhm.
which an Xbox can pull 120. So until arenas are going with the 200 plus monitors at every station, the Xbox can compete just as well.
I think that did you hear the rumors though that they're not going to be making Xboxes anymore?
I did not hear that.
Oh,
This will
okay.
be a,
Well,
this will be a first for me. So
yeah.
you're about to blow my stuff
Your
out of the
face,
water.
your face. And so, okay.
Yeah, I am
So Microsoft.
obviously Team Xbox over here. So
Yeah, I mean, I am too, but like Microsoft lost, man. Like they're not making. They're pretty soon they're going to be offering Xbox Game Pass on, and pushing that on PC and offering it on PlayStation because to them they want more people gaming on Xbox specific gaming titles in in everywhere as opposed to just making consoles. So Xbox has also never once turned a profit from like console sales. So in the very near future, this is another thing that we're gonna see. Um, we're not gonna be seeing like the production of Xboxes pretty soon. More than likely. I mean, they're rumors, but they're corporate rumors.
yeah.
So there's what they're saying is that they'll just allow for Game Pass and they'll push Game Pass on PC and they'll also allow Game Pass on PlayStation consoles, which is just a wild, wild thing to hear, you know. So
Well, I can believe it, especially with the acquisitions that they've been making lately.
yeah,
That it actually makes total sense.
yeah. But I mean, you can see I play Xbox as well. I I specifically set up my Helldivers so that I can play with controller with Xbox controller, you know. So I'm biased. I like Xbox. You know, Halo. A lot of good memories with Halo, and it's just I don't know. It's just sad. It's just sad. And those were the rumors a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how they've evolved recently, but we'll see.
Time for Sega to bring back the Dreamcast, baby.
Oh
It's
my god. No. I think one thing that's cool though is that we're seeing VR and AR slowly grow. The startup costs with like a Meta Quest and like just the simple fact that there hasn't been that many VR headset sales. So what you're doing is even if you play with multiplayer, you're still playing with like a lower player base. So getting teamed up for matches isn't like it's not like crazy. It's not like I show up to the map and there's like 2 people, but like there's still way less people who would invest in that because it requires a PC. Well, actually, some the what is it the Quest the Oculus Quest that doesn't require a
yeah.
PC and it can just function off as yeah. Like we've seen some cool stuff like that, but I think VR. I would like to see VR like take place in the future, especially because Disney. Did you hear about Disney's new omnidirectional treadmill tech?
Slowly. I've been seeing some of
Yeah,
the demos for the. Oh man, there's a shooting game that they've been using on that treadmill on some of the
yeah,
demos, and
exactly. So for
I
the
do know.
longest time, the Virtuix was the only company to have developed an omnidirectional treadmill specifically for your VR. So you could sprint, jump, run, and all within VR, and it would just move. But you would have to strap into the thing. It's like 5 grand or 3 grand, and like the space would be a little bit of an issue. But with the Disney tech that they now have, depending on when that goes for private sale, you could potentially just roll out a carpet. You could just roll it out into your living room, and you have like that thing. I mean, that's obviously a stretch because we don't know what the setup is like because they had a whole stage set up and everything like
Yeah.
that when they were doing a demo, right? And we know that demos at conventions have always been very lackluster when they go to launch. But that tech now is I think it could be really cool. Can you imagine playing like the new the Walking Dead VR with that? That'd be so funny. That'd be scary, but that'd be a lot of fun.
Well, there's also Status Quo, the team Status Quo.
Hmm.
They have been real big in the augmented reality. They have a team that competes with that, and there's an arena right outside of Dallas. It's like one of two here in the U.S., and then it's really been blowing up in Europe. But right now, Status Quo has either the number one or number two team in the nation with doing that stuff, and that's been real
Yeah.
crazy to see the popularity in that start
Yeah,
to
because
grow
it's the
as well.
closest to reality, or it's the closest. What was that one? With Gerard Butler. Do you remember that movie Gamer from
Yeah,
2006?
yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Only like we're not using like you know prisoners and moving around real dead bodies, but um, that is like as close as we can get to that right now. It would be cooler if we could have like vests with tasers and then they get knocked out, like when they get like a headshot or something like that. But that's something that I would definitely opt for. I like VR,
yeah.
in case you haven't
I
noticed.
think in time we'll get there.
Yeah, hopefully. As long as nobody gets hurt,
Yeah.
you know.
Now, could you share probably what would you say so far has been your most memorable moment in esports?
uh, I th- I think hanging out with Adren was probably one of the most memorable times, and that was like that's esports related and gaming related, but like we so Adren is the current head coach of Team Liquid CS:GO team, and he's also just like a legend within CS:GO. And just like I just hung out with the guy for like an afternoon. It was like, and we just talked about golf and like VR, and that was probably one of my more memorable experiences within within esports. And I think a close follow up to that is when the first time that I did an event with the Steelers, but I was working with the Knights, and it was at what was it at? It was at I think it was at draft day, and it was just like being able to. First off, I had a jersey for the first time. I got to wear like an actual like esports jersey, the same ones that our players wore, and I got to just like talk to people in like while I was wearing. I felt like I was like cosplaying as like a Warhammer 40K character. Like I felt like Sanguinius for like a little bit. It was awesome, but I got to just all these like wide-eyed people would come up to me, seeing that behind me was this 32 Xbox Series X's with monitors with two chairs with each. So our gaming zone was massive, and we brought that to the Steelers stadium, and I believe it was for the draft day party. And all these people who just thought that they were going to be able to tour the stadium and potentially meet some Steelers players, they also got to see like a real esports team. And they're like, I didn't even know that we had stuff like that around here. And I just got to like talk to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people about it, like over the course of like a weekend. That was probably like the best because it was like my first time doing it. And I got to see so many smiling faces of people that maybe they were gamers, but more than likely they had just grown up hearing that gaming isn't good to just sink into, so changing those people's perceptions and
Yeah,
over the course of just an afternoon. So that was probably, was that like 2 years ago, 3 years ago? That was probably one of my most memorable experiences. Yeah.
nice. Yeah, definitely the landscape or the mindset uh, towards gaming has definitely shifted in a positive way, and it's good to see. But
Mhm.
how do you balance the competitive aspects of esports with maintaining that positive and inclusive community and reaching out to everyone and doing these events like that?
No, I mean, it's It's really easy. I mean, the balance is already there because so many people see this and they either they want to get into that or they want to hear more. So when doing those events, it's just keeping an open mind that everybody's background within gaming can be a little bit different. We got there's some people out there whose parents would scream at them if they caught them playing, playing on PlayStation or playing on the Xbox. And then they get some whose parents like play alongside with them. I met a guy the other day who's him and his dad play Helldivers 2, and they just like they sunk they sunk 60 hours in within like the first couple of weeks of the game releasing together. So I think that as far as balancing it, there's not really any like balancing that I have to do because everybody's like interested once they have it right in front of them. But when I'm talking to like clients or when I'm doing prospecting and I'm talking to new people, getting them to be interested in esports is a little bit more of an undertaking just because they see it through the lens of what's in it of what's in it for me,
Yeah.
and what does my company get out of this. So then if you don't give that kind of perceived benefit to them within the um, few moments that you have, whether it's via email or on a call, they can lose interest, or they can just flat out say, "This isn't a priority for us right now." Well, even though I've done my research and I'm like, well, that's actually not true because I know that this is the audience that you guys are going after. I know this is the age demographic, the income level, the browsing habits. I know these guys are who you want, but it's something new to you and you don't want to um, learn about something new, or maybe there's a bandwidth issue and you guys don't want to learn about something new even though I'm here with you every step of the way. But that's with any company. Like why
Yeah.
why are they trusting some random guy? So building that familiarity when I'm on the corporate side and just making sure that these people know that I can steer them in the right direction. But that's kind of the balance that I have to find. Being truthful and making sure that they understand. I win if you win, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Well, I do want to say thank you. I know, as always, man, I always say 30 minutes, come on. But every time it's gone over 30 minutes because, man, I love talking to everyone. You always bring the passion. And I think that's just it. Once we lock in on something we're passionate about, it's easy to talk and easy to get away from the time scale. So I do want to say
Exactly.
thank you for coming on and definitely staying past the time. I have one final question for you.
Yeah,
Uh,
Cody, what's up?
what excites you the most about the future of gaming and esports, and where do you see yourself in the evolving landscape?
I think what excites me the most is the low barrier to entry within esports and gaming as a whole. It's so accessible, everybody can have fun, and everybody is welcome. I think that as far as where I see myself, I definitely would like to be the person that people go to whenever they have uh, questions about this thing called esports and how do they get involved. I would love to be that corporate facing public figure that people go to when they have questions. And I would love to work with a very eclectic mix of different decision makers across like different industries to hopefully legitimize esports further. Because one of the best ways that we can legitimize this space is if more outside endemics and non-endemic brands get involved. So that's really where I see myself, and I'm consistently working to and pushing towards that. So yeah,
Heck yeah. Well, again, thank you so much. Make sure, guys, you hit up at KnightsGG on Twitter. I'm not. I know it's the Pittsburgh Knights. You can look them up. I believe it's Knights Arena. Is that correct? For
yeah. So you can either go to knights.gg as our main website, and that's where all of our social medias are up on the top right hand corner. And then Knights Arena is our events and tournaments organizer as well. So you can go to knightsarena.org as well. So
nice, and make sure you hit up Liam as well. And if you need tips in the gym, hit my boy up because he gonna get you right. Because the man puts in some work. So again, do want to say thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed another episode of the Gamers Edge podcast. Uh, Liam, anything to close us out?
Find your passion and follow it, and make sure that you do all the necessary work and research to make those dreams come alive. I hope that anybody who listens to my story is inspired. If they're late on their journey or late to finding their passion, that they understand that it can happen at any age or at any level of success or failure.
You hear it here first, guys. Get up now, go stretch it out, and go chase that dream. Later, guys.